Hey folks, it's Eric from MSP Mountain and Support Adventure, and I'm going to talk about the mistakes that tech guys make when they're hiring their first staff members. And this is something that I see a lot of people who are just like a solo IT guy. These are the mistakes I see them making in terms of, they want to expand their business. They've got enough business and budget to start getting someone else involved, but they don't know the leadership principles they need to embody. They don't know the sort of person that they should be hiring, and they just make a lot of these mistakes. When I started my business when I was 16, and then in my 20s, I started spending more time in Europe, and I had to hire people to go visit my clients. Of course, my clients were never truly happy because I had not hired the right person and given them the right structure, and sort of like I hadn't done what you need to do when you're hiring people because I had no experience managing people. I had no experience hiring people and making any sort of organization for how to share work with people and, work as a company rather than just a solo IT self-employed technician. So the first mistake I'm going to talk about is hiring the wrong type of person, not realizing overlapping weaknesses. So when you have your first hire in the IT business, you've probably been able to do everything. And you're probably that sort of person who can really do everything and succeed in doing a lot of things. You can do your own accounting, you can do your own bookkeeping, you can do your own sort of this, that, the other thing. You can set up any portal, you can set up any technology, you can basically just, you're so smart and you end up thinking that you need someone who's just like you to hire, and then things are going to be great because you'll hire somebody just like you. But the reality is you're likely to hire somebody who has overlapping weaknesses. And what you should try to do is hire people who have different strengths so you can build your organization, because you don't have it all. You may be able to do everything and be really smart at fixing everything, but you probably aren't consistent enough. You probably don't follow any sort of system for getting your work done. And if you ever want to build an IT business that gets lots and lots of work done and involves a large number of people, a large number of clients, large number of staff members, you will have to make a system and you will have to hire different people to sit on different seats on the bus for that system and do different roles that complement the system and the company in different ways. So on your first person, if you're the I can fix anything computer dude, I would say the first person you should hire is somebody to organize your work and triage the work before it gets to you. A level 1 person if you're the level 2, level 3. You should find the person who's most able to organize things in a detail-oriented way, and because chances are you're not doing that. I'm talking about things like documentation, client databases, following up on issues, all of that stuff. Hire somebody who's good at those details because you're probably not. And then the next mistake I see people making is expecting the person to think like you, to act like you would in situations. Now, you are successful because you're exceptional at solving people's problems, I'm guessing. And you expect that somebody, and you're the person who has the sort of like self-initiative to go out and start your own business and find your own clients, do your own marketing, all that sort of stuff. Do you expect somebody who applies for a job from a job ad will think exactly like you? Because it's already a difference there. It's already a huge difference. Like somebody who starts their own business and wants to be self-employed is, whereas somebody who wants to just apply for a job and get a job, yeah, they're not going to have the same experience as you. And so they're going to do different things in different situations. So a lot of the time people just say, why can't he do why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? Expecting that the person will have a crystal ball and know exactly what you would do in any situation. Sorry, I got some allergies here. What you would do in any situation, and that's often not the case. Think about that. You are you, the person you hire is them, and you can't expect them to psychically know what you would do in a situation, but you can slowly teach them and mentor them to do what you would do. But you have to do it piece by piece, and don't get angry when they don't do what you would do out of their own common sense, because common sense might not be the sense that you have, might not be common between you and them. One client I had at one point said, if everybody I hired had common sense, I'd be a millionaire. Well, that's not how building a business works. Making a structure that teaches people how to act sensibly in the sense of the level of service you as your business, as your brand want to give, making a structure for that and guidelines so people that you hire can give that service. That's what it's all about. Not about hiring the person who already knows everything and does things how you would do and getting to, yeah, you should try to hire that sort of person if you can, but chances are you can't, especially if you're just starting out and it's a really competitive job market for finding the right candidate for your business. So not being teachable. This is a thing that basically, yeah, not being teachable. That's like you should learn how to give stuff in bite size, well emphasized and well extrapolated, documented guidelines, and teaching people things. Being a teacher is all about communication and realizing when people are ready to receive new information, how much new information to give, and how much to insist on certain things and how much to sort of let them figure out things for themselves. If you over explain everything, people will disconnect. If you under explain anything, people will be confused. But by establishing a dialogue and meeting people where they're at and offering them ways to get higher on the ladder of being able to be functional and doing the stuff that you do, that's how you become teachable. The next thing people hiring often don't do is they don't offer structure. So not offering structure would be something like you have no guidelines of what you want to do whatsoever. So for example, it's just a free-for-all. They're supposed to take random tickets from random clients in random ways, or they might not even be tickets. You might not even have a ticketing system. It's just a whole mess of work. People are calling, people are emailing, people are submitting tickets. There's no rhyme or reason for how they should be prioritized, anything like that. There's no guide for how the person should write ticket notes. There's no guide to the statuses that are in your ticketing system. There's no sort of escalation procedure. There's no sort of customer service policy. There's no complaint escalation policy. There's no basic style guide on how you're supposed to communicate with clients and when you're supposed to close a ticket if you don't hear back from them. There's no structure whatsoever, and you're just winging it all the time. This means that you're just going to be in constant contact with the person and going back and forth. If you put in structure from your first hire, you will have an organization that will have a much greater chance of being able to grow. If you don't, if your training of people is just being on chat with them all the time, or being on the phone with them sometimes, or being on email with them all the time, saying, they come to you and say, I'm doing this for this client, what should I do? And you tell them what you would do, and they do that, then every person you hire, you're going to have to sort of do that again. But if you're taking that stuff and putting it into documentation, standard operating procedures, and of course the technical documentation, because a lot of the time with your first hire, they'll be asking you, what's the password for that server? And you'll know it off the top of your head and you'll have to tell them right then and there. But if you make a habit of putting it in a centralized documentation place that, you know, your third, fourth, and fifth hires will just be using that all the time, we'll never have to ask you anything directly. And procedural documentation, well, that's going to be really good. So one of the things that I see a lot is having bad documentation. Of course you have bad documentation. You just remember everything about all your clients because they're still small. And you know how all their systems work, maybe even the passwords to them, and what all the IP addresses you can. And if you don't know something, you can figure out real fast. But as you hire your first person, they're not going to have that crystal ball from memory, tapping into your memory that you have. So before you have your first hire, you need to do a brain dump, or it needs to be part of what the first hire is doing, is a format for the brain dump from your brain to them and where they put the information that you're giving. IT glue is a great place to do it. Other things can work. Yeah, just make sure there's a framework for the information that you're giving going into somewhere. Otherwise, you're going to have to give the same information again and again and again to everybody who you hire for the end of time. Might as well put in that system now and just do it. So being too available at random times is, if you are that person who's available for escalation anytime with anything, then basically you'll be a crutch for the person who's working for you. If you give them that documentation system and you give them basically, yeah, a little bit of self-sufficiency, then distance yourself. And when the information isn't there, you stop. But being too available, you'll just be a crutch. They'll be able to talk to you all the time, know they'll get an answer, and you'll be answering to them all the time, and they won't learn how to figure out things for themselves. So one good tip I would say that I learned at one point in some seminar is like, have people come to you with 2 possible solutions for any problem they're bringing to you, escalating to you, or at least 2, 3, 4 solutions. You want me to do this, this, or this is better than what should I do? Because they actually had to use their brain to think of what the possible solutions could be. But if you get in a culture of them asking, what should I do? Then you're always going to be micromanaging and telling them what to do all the time. And you don't want that. The way out of micromanagement isn't micromanagement if it's training. But if it's training, there needs to be a structure that you're training them on. Does that make sense? So not being available enough or being available intermittently at different times. I mean, if they can't rely on when they really need to talk to you, being able to talk to you, eventually a situation will, rear its head where a client will get bad service because you weren't reachable. So that will not be good. You want to avoid that. So basically what you want to do is have a culture of like, if something's not urgent, we'll have a call once a day to deal with it. We'll go down the list of stuff you can't solve if it's not urgent. But if it is urgent, I want to be paged, like with something like PagerDuty. I want to be urgently called with the thing, and I will be available for that. But let's try to minimize the urgent escalations and get as much business done on the daily call as possible. And just streamlining the communication so that the people know that there's a structure for escalating things that are not urgent, and escalating things that are urgent, and that you're always available to take things that are urgent, and that the things that are not urgent are always going to wait for later and will be raised to you in an organized fashion, so you can deal with them with focus. Yeah. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is might be kind of foreign to you, but not embodying leadership principles. You're used to doing whatever it takes to serve your clients in the best way. But once you hire your first person, it's going to be very difficult to sort of like keep on behaving this way, because it's going to seem erratic, and it's going to seem like there's no sort of stability in the way that the person is being managed, because people want leadership. They want principles that they can take into themselves, and that you're going to behave consistently, and so that they can behave in a similar way that they see you behaving. And that's how the company functions as an entity. And so you need to do some research for what you want to stand for as a leader, what your company wants to stand for in terms of the types of service it wants to give its clients, its core values, its brand, meaning what you want the clients to feel towards your company. That's what branding means. It's not just a logo, but what you want the clients to feel towards your company. Basically, it's super important to just sort of like have something to stand for, because a lot of the time small business owners stand for nothing except for making the next sale, making the next buck, fixing the next problem. And I'd say that small IT companies are especially guilty for this. This is a completely unregulated industry where super smart people thrive from solving complicated problems on the fly, kind of intuitively. So yeah, what do you want to stand for as a business, and how can you turn this into a set of values and a way of behaving as a boss or a leader? The other mistake I see people making is like being too friendly and not being the boss, because you need to actually, it goes, once you have these values, then you need to enforce them on the person who's working. If showing up late is not okay in your value system and the person shows up late, you have to not be friendly about it. You have to go and say, hey, don't do this. Leave an extra 15 minutes. If you think it's going to take 45 minutes to get there, leave an hour, then you'll always be on time, because you showing up late for this meeting is not acceptable to me. You need to be the boss, and you need to be basically like firm where you need to be firm about stuff that you believe in, stuff that's important to you. And yeah, just sort of like set the standard. But then on the other side, I see like sometimes people just want to be that strict boss, and they're not friendly enough. Charisma is the mix of warmth and strength. So charisma is the mix of warmth and strength. And what I mean by this is you want to be seen as a strong leader, strong boss, strong sort of like role model for the person, but you also want to be warm for them. You want to be friendly with them. You know, it's business first, friends second, definitely when you have someone working for you, because the other way around will not be a great way to do business. Believe me, I've been there. It's not good. Just because you like someone doesn't mean they're going to be the best person to work with. But because somebody's the best person to work with, you should like them. So you should be friendly. And the idea of being charismatic and warm to them, but also being firm when it's your values, the business's values that you need to enforce. This is a great combination. And so the last thing I'm going to talk about in this video is the fact that you will, since you've succeeded so much, a lot of the time you will just tell your first hire, never mind, I'll just do it myself. And what did I say about being teachable? It's about the bite-sized information. When you solve something that they couldn't solve, do you tell them how you solved it? Do you teach them how you solved it? Do you show them the way so they can solve that problem next time? Or are you just like, oh, never mind, I'll do it myself, because you have this sort of lack of teachability, you have this sort of lack of trust in the person you hired and all this sort of stuff, and it's easier to just do it yourself because that's what you always did, and this is something new, and you can always rely on yourself, you can't rely on other people. Well, those habits will no longer serve you if you want to actually grow a business. So don't just be like, I'll just do it myself. Be like, how about we do it together? You might not get everything I'm doing because there's lots of experience here in what I've done. There's lots of knowledge that you don't have, but let's do it together so you can see what I'm doing and see what you can pick up from that. That's a much better attitude. So if you take all of these principles I've mentioned in this video and you put it into your first hire, if you're the tech dude hiring for the first time, I would say that you'll be on your way to building something that could turn into an MSP with, 5, 10, 20, 30 people someday. It's a lot of hard work. And the main things you need to get out of this lone wolf mentality, I can fix anything, everyone else is stupid sort of way of looking at the world. I'm the best, everyone else is crap sort of way of looking at the world. And you need to see the right type of people who you need to bring in who will complement your skills and not have overlapping weaknesses, and a framework through which you can mentor them and get your first hire going with success. Best of luck for that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to watch more content like this. I'll catch you guys later. Bye now.